You picked up your phone to relax, to decompress, to have 5 minutes of nothing after a long day, and somehow you feel worse than before you started. Not tired in the way that leads to sleep, tired in the way that feels like low-level dread, like your nervous system is still running but you have used up whatever was left in the tank, like you scrolled for an hour and came out the other side, more wired and more hollow at the same time. That is not a mood. That is your amygdala running a threat detection program on every piece of content you consumed. And it cannot tell the difference between a news story, a friend's highlight reel, a political argument in the comments, and an actual threat to your survival. The result is predictable once you understand it. Your brain processed hundreds of potential threats in 60 minutes. Your body responded to each one. And now you are exhausted from a threat response you never consciously chose to run. Your amygdala is a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain's limbic system. It is one of the oldest parts of your brain evolutionarily. Its primary function is threat detection. It scans your environment continuously for anything that might be dangerous, and when it identifies a potential threat, it triggers your HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, to release cortisol and adrenaline. This system is extraordinarily fast. The amygdala processes incoming signals and triggers a threat response in approximately 12 milliseconds. That is faster than your conscious brain can register what you are looking at. The response happens before you decide whether the threat is real. This speed was essential for survival on the savannah. A rustle in the grass that turned out to be wind was less costly than a rustle that turned out to be a predator you did not respond to. So your amygdala evolved to respond first and evaluate second. Threat response first, rational assessment after. The problem is that your amygdala cannot distinguish between a lion and a news headline, between a physical predator and an outrage bait post, between an actual emergency and a friend's curated holiday photos that make you feel subtly inadequate. To your amygdala, all of these are potential threats. All of them trigger the same system. And when you scroll through a feed for 60 minutes, your amygdala has processed hundreds of potential threat signals, each one triggering a small cortisol response, each one leaving a small residue of physiological activation in your nervous system. And here is the part most people have never heard. Each individual cortisol spike from a single threat signal is small, manageable, quickly resolved, but they accumulate. A 2018 study by Kira Riam and colleagues at Johns Hopkins University found that social media use exceeding 30 minutes per day was associated with significantly elevated cortisol patterns throughout the following day, not just while you were scrolling. The cortisol pattern from your evening scroll is measurably affecting your nervous system the next morning. You're not just tired after scrolling, you're preloading tomorrow's stress response tonight. The amygdala threat response is the foundation. But there are 3 specific mechanisms that amplify it into the specific kind of exhaustion you feel after scrolling. Mechanism 1. Negativity bias amplification. Your brain is wired to weight negative information more heavily than positive information. In 2001, Roy Baumeister at Case Western Reserve University published a landmark paper showing that bad events, bad emotions, and bad feedback have more impact on the brain than equivalent good events. He called it the bad is stronger than good principle. Social media algorithms amplify this bias because negative, outrage-generating, and threatening content drives more engagement. Your feed is therefore optimized to show you content that your amygdala will respond to most strongly. The algorithm and your threat detector are working together against your nervous system. Mechanism 2. Unresolved threat loops. When your amygdala triggers a threat response, your body prepares to act. Cortisol and adrenaline are released. Blood flow shifts toward your muscles. Your heart rate increases. Your body is prepared to fight, flee, or freeze. In a real physical threat, this response leads to action. The action discharges the physiological state. Your body returns to baseline. When the threat is a news story or a disturbing comment, there is no action available. Your body is prepared, but has nowhere to direct the preparation. The cortisol stays elevated. The adrenaline lingers. The physiological activation has no discharge mechanism. This is the specific biology of doomscrolling exhaustion. You are spending energy on a threat response your body cannot complete. Mechanism 3. The baseline creep. Repeated low-level cortisol spikes without adequate recovery gradually raise your cortisol baseline. Your nervous system recalibrates what it considers normal. A state that should feel like elevated stress begins to feel like rest. You stop noticing the activation because it has become your default. Research from Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller University on allostatic load, the cumulative wear of chronic stress on the body, shows that this recalibration happens incrementally and largely invisibly, until the day you try to actually rest and cannot, because your baseline is now where most people's stress response used to be. Think about the last time you had a genuine break. Not a scroll, not a show, a genuine break. Maybe a slow walk somewhere quiet. Maybe a conversation that did not require anything from you. Maybe sitting somewhere with nothing to look at but the view. Think about how your nervous system felt, the specific quality of that stillness, the way your shoulders dropped without you telling them to, the way your breathing slowed without you noticing. That is your amygdala with nothing to scan, your HPA axis at actual rest, your cortisol doing what it is supposed to do between demands. Most people cannot remember when they last felt that on a regular basis. Because most of their rest time is filled with content their amygdala is treating as threat data. Quick, honest check before the fixes. After your last long scroll session, which of these did you feel? 1. More anxious or unsettled than before I started. 2. Physically tired but mentally unable to wind down. 3. A vague sense of inadequacy or irritability I could not explain. 4. Like I had wasted time but could not stop myself doing it anyway. Drop your number in the comments. Because those are not random feelings. Those are the specific signatures of each mechanism we just covered. Now, before the fixes, the same reframe from the sleep video applies here. When you tell yourself to just stop scrolling, you are asking your prefrontal cortex to override a signal your amygdala is generating 12 milliseconds faster than your conscious brain can process it. Your amygdala does not ask permission. It responds. The content is already being evaluated as a threat or non-threat before you have decided to keep scrolling or put the phone down. This is why every previous attempt at scrolling reduction using willpower alone has failed. You are using a deliberate, slow system to override an automatic, fast one. On good days and with high prefrontal cortex energy, willpower wins occasionally. On hard days, on tired evenings, on days when your cognitive resources have already been depleted by compliance mode at work, the amygdala wins every time. You are not addicted to your phone. Your amygdala is addicted to scanning. The phone is just the most efficient scanning environment ever created. Now, stop. Before the 3 fixes, 1 reframe. The goal is not to use your phone less. The goal is to give your amygdala fewer unresolved threat signals per day. That is a completely different target. Your phone is not the problem. The content your amygdala is treating as threat data is the problem. The fixes below do not require a digital detox. They require redesigning your content environment so your threat detector gets less to scan. That is a system change, not a discipline change. Those are not the same thing. So here they are. 3 specific protocols. Each one interrupts a different part of the mechanism. Fix 1. The feed audit. Your feed is the environment your amygdala scans. Most people have never deliberately designed it. They have accumulated it through years of passive following and algorithm optimization. The feed audit is a single 20-minute session where you unfollow or mute every account that consistently produces content your amygdala treats as a threat. News accounts with high outrage content, comparison content that produces inadequacy, political content that generates sustained anger without resolution, accounts that make you feel worse after looking at them than before. Research from the American Psychological Association's Stress in America studies shows that people who actively limit news consumption report significantly lower stress levels without reporting feeling less informed. Your amygdala does not need more threat data. It needs fewer unresolvable ones. Fix 2. The discharge protocol. The specific exhaustion of doomscrolling comes from an unresolved physiological state. Your body prepared for action and had nowhere to direct the preparation. The discharge protocol is any physical activity done immediately after a scroll session that gives the cortisol and adrenaline a discharge mechanism. A 10-minute walk, 20 push-ups, any physical movement that uses the physiological resources your body mobilized. This is not exercise for fitness. It is exercise as nervous system reset. Research on exercise and cortisol clearance from Peter Simoner's 2001 review in Clinical Psychology Review shows that even brief physical activity accelerates cortisol clearance and reduces residual physiological activation. You are completing the threat response your body started. Fix 3. The amygdala rest window. Your amygdala needs periods with nothing to scan. A daily 20-minute window with no phone, no screen, no audio content. Eyes open or closed, sitting or walking, but with no incoming information that requires threat evaluation. This is not meditation. You do not need to do anything. You just need to give your threat detector a period where it has nothing to assess. Research from Marcus Rachlin's default mode network work at Washington University shows that the brain's consolidation and restoration processes require periods of genuine environmental quiet. Your amygdala is scanning even when you are watching something relaxing. The amygdala rest window is the only fix that gives it actual rest. Here is what the research shows happens when you reduce unresolvable threat signals consistently. Your cortisol baseline drops. Within 2 weeks of consistent feed auditing and daily rest windows, studies on social media reduction show measurable decreases in perceived stress, improved sleep onset, and reduced baseline anxiety. Not because your life changed, because your amygdala stopped being overloaded. The exhaustion you feel after scrolling is not permanent. It is a physiological state your content environment is producing. Change the environment. The nervous system recalibrates. You are not tired from doing nothing. You are tired from running a threat response on hundreds of pieces of content that your amygdala could not tell were not real threats. That is not laziness. That is a nervous system doing its job in an environment it was never designed for. Your amygdala is not broken. It is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Scan for threats. Prepare your body to respond. Keep you alive. The problem is the environment you put it in every day. A feed optimized by an algorithm that knows your threat detector responds most strongly to outrage, fear, inadequacy, and uncertainty. Hundreds of potential threat signals per session. None of them resolvable by action. All of them leaving a small cortisol residue your nervous system carries into the next thing you do. 3 changes. Audit the feed once. Discharge the activation with 10 minutes of movement. Give your amygdala 20 minutes a day with nothing to scan. None of these require discipline. They require understanding what your nervous system is actually doing when you scroll. Save this video. The next time you put your phone down and feel worse than before you picked it up, you will know exactly what just happened. And if someone you know seems chronically on edge or exhausted without a clear reason, and you have noticed how much they scroll, send this to them. They have probably never connected those two things. If you are not here to stay average, subscribe.